Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Zandvoort. Today we are here for Formula 2 action in NRRL. My name is JP, I am your commentator, and tonight we are scheduled for some brilliant F2 action around an iconic circuit here today in the Netherlands. First we begin with a one-shot qualifying for our sprint race. So here we go then. Who can take pole position for the sprint race? As we come round the final corner to begin the laps for the drivers then. And let's see who can put on a clinic as we go into turn 1 now then. And we can see many people gaining positions. The positions will always be changing in a session like this. It's going to be very, very close between all of the drivers. Only one lap to try and perfect your qualifying before the sprint race begins. Just Dave currently going very well through the first sector, and he is currently on provisional pole. Sets to purple first sector, sorry. Josh takes that sort of lead away from him then. And Just Dave jockeying for position with Fake Scouser. Devil Diddley is getting his way in there as well. Josh currently leading though. Fake Scouser takes that away from him as we now head through the middle sector. And it looks like it's going to be Josh that takes the purple middle sector. Or it might just have been Fake Scouser there as everyone jockeying for position as we now come through into the action. Round the final corner we go then. And who is it going to be on pole position? It is going to be Just Dave by just about a tenth of a second. Just Dave takes it. He was on provisional pole for the first sector, lost a bit of time in the middle, but in the final sector, electric stuff, and he makes his way onto pole position from Josh and PRF1 Viper. Fake Scouser in 4th with Sab Gaming in 5th, and Diddley, who was up there, invalidated his lap time. So it'll be interesting to see if he can make his way through in the sprint to try and make a name for himself. And there is your classification then. It is Just Dave on pole position from Josh, Viper, Fake Scouser, Sab Gaming, Kevin Baker, Dinosaur, Span Muscle, Paul Cod, Chinzilla, Meldrum, Hash, and then Daryl and Diddley not making a lap time. I believe we now have a little bit of a break, so we'll take you over to the standings where you can see F1 Mikey Boy, formerly known as McKellar, leads, but he is crucially not racing tonight. So Fake Scouser, who is currently 2nd in the World Championship, looking to make ground. Dan Lovett no longer races on Saturdays in the F2 division, so he will not be present for the rest of the season. Josh is currently in 4th, Anarchy in 5th as a reserve driver, and in the team standings we have VAR with a massive lead over Invicta. It is then MP Motorsport in 3rd with Prema in 4th and ART in 5th. We'll look to the calendar. Tonight is round 6 here in Zandvoort, and we are really getting to the back end of the season now. Next week we take to Shanghai for the Chinese Grand Prix, followed by the season ending at the Temple of Speed in Monza. But as you can see by the standings, somewhat close at the front. Mikey Boy is very clear, but is still beatable, as we'll head back to the main action then as the 5 red lights are ahead of the drivers for the Zandvoort sprint. It is lights out and away we go, and it didn't look like Span Muscle had a good getaway, and he is already falling back for Chinzilla out in front. It is a good start. Paul Cod and Dinosaur are battling. We've then got Sab Gaming right behind Span Muscle and PRF1. That's very close to contact there as we go into the hairpin, and big contact as we see PRF1 going down the inside. There's more damage there and more contact as Span Muscle and Josh are into the wall, and that's big damage there. And we can see there's about 4 cars that are right at the back there. We've got cars going off all over the places. Just Dave is going off, as well as Fake Scouser, who has already been in the wall once this weekend, and we're only about halfway through lap 1. But right at the back there, you can see still jockeying for position even with damage. It doesn't look like Josh has any damage, and he's going to make his way through on the inside. But for the start, Chinzilla, great getaway, already a second clear of Paul Codd, who is really under pressure from Dinosaur. It is then Sab Gaming, who's in 4th position, will just get the position change up for you, ladies and gentlemen. And look at that, Devil Diddley, we knew he'd be making a comeback, up 9 places, and we haven't even finished the first lap yet. Our big gainer as well is Daryl, up 5 places, up into 8th position. And we can see going down into turn 1, Dinosaur on the inside of Paul Codd. They're both going to throw it, and there's big contact as Paul Codd flies off the track there into the gravel. Dinosaur and Chinzilla battling away. Chinzilla manages to win out that one. Sab Gaming's up to 3rd. Devil's up to 4th. We see Sab up the inside of Dinosaur. That's very, very close to contact. They managed to make their way through, and Dinosaur manages to hold on to the position then. But for Paul Codd, that was a massive, massive throw into turn 1. Very, very deep he went. And unfortunately for him, that did not work out, and he was into the gravel. We've got Devil up 10 places, and there is that Sab Gaming going round. It is Sab Gaming round on the exit of, I believe that's turn 6 or 7, and that'll promote Devil Diddley all the way up to P12, and he's got the DRS on Dinosaur. We knew he was making a comeback from the back of the grid. Last to first challenge, you say? Last to first challenge with damage in 2 laps. What a drive from Devil Diddley, and he is already up into the lead of the Grand Prix. 13 positions in 2 laps for him. We've got contact down at the back. I believe that was Fake Scouser that was causing the yellow flag. As we see there, Sab Gaming running very, very wide, and potential damage to the Invicta Motors car. There on the inside of the banking, we see Paul Codd and Josh battling away. This is the battle for 9th place. Josh on the inside, looking to take away the position. Massive contact as Paul Codd tried to turn in there and make the corner his own. But Josh manages to get through and up into 9th. But for Devil Diddley, up 13 positions before the second lap had even ended, from the back of the grid to the top of it. Brilliant stuff from the Prema driver. Incredible racing. You've then got Dinosaur, who's in 2nd and is already about a 2nd back. You've then got Chinzilla, who's about a 2nd off the back of that, and Just Dave is going up the inside and makes the move stick into the podium places. Into 3rd goes the Rodin Motorsport driver. We've then got, Fake Scouser, who is in 5th. Kevin Baker has left the session. He's currently in 6th, but will inevitably lose positions as Daryl, and you would assume Sab Gaming, will go past as well. And that is exactly what happens. We've got Chinzilla going off the road in the chicane into the gravel, and he's dragging that all back on track, and he's now down a few positions. Fake Scouser and Just Dave have passed him. But for Devil Diddley, leading out in front, 1.8 seconds, he is absolutely flying. As now the gaps start to form, and you can see Sab Gaming and Daryl getting very, very close down the main straight. Chinzilla's also involved in that battle. Chinzilla manages to stay ahead. Sab Gaming takes the position away from Daryl, who will look for the switchback though, and has got very good traction as we now go towards the banked hairpin. Higher line for Daryl, lower line for Sab Gaming. Daryl wins out that battle and manages to hold on to that 6th place. It is then Chinzilla in 5th, and he is just ahead of that battle. But that is the main battle we got so far, apart from Josh, who's really coming back at Paul Codd. Paul managed to get past him, I believe, on the main straight. And Josh is giving it everything, as Chinzilla may have made a mistake in there, and he has. He's got grass on his tyres, and that's allowed Daryl to get through. Sab Gaming now through on the inside, and Chinzilla is beginning to struggle as Sab sweeps all the way around the outside and manages to take the position. We'll look at the tyres now. It is a very split allocation between mediums and soft compound tyres. It looks like the soft is the favoured tyre, and maybe that could help Dinosaur towards the end of this sprint race, although a 3.5 second gap will be a lot to try and gain back from, as we're now moving on to lap 5 of this sprint race, and we've got Fake Scouser, Just Dave and Dinosaur all battling away for 2nd place. Fake Scouser's going down the inside of Dinosaur. You're going to have Just Dave on the back of that, who's looking to improve position as well. There's contact between Dave and Scouser as they're still wheel to wheel. Round the outside, looks to go the Red Bull liveried car of Fake Scouser. He can't make that work, and he's going to lose a position to Just Dave as well. And Just Dave promotes himself into the podium positions. A good opportunist move from the Rodin Motorsport driver. He's up into third position. Good calculated driving from him. There was a little bit of contact between Dinosaur and Fake Scouser, but nothing that won't brush out, nothing a fresh lick of paint will not fix. And that is an incredible battle. We see PRF1 Viper getting past us. That's Paul Codd with a wonderful save to keep that on track and out of the walls. We see Chinzilla losing position to Josh. That's for 7th. And Just Dave now coming at Dinosaur for 2nd place. Dinosaur throwing it down the inside, and that's contact. Dinosaur with a little bit of a half spin. Just Dave manages to get the position. Fake Scouser gets past Dinosaur and all of that and moves up into 3rd place. Dinosaur now down into 4th. Sab Gaming is now 5th. But very close between all these drivers, and tensions are starting to flare as Fake Scouser with the DRS manages to make his way back through and up into 2nd place. Just Dave will try and hold round the outside. Nothing doing for him, and he will have to concede that position and slot into 3rd and calculate how he will next get past the Red Bull liveried car. Sab Gaming is now joining in this battle and is very close to the back of Dinosaur. Daryl will be trying to gain on this. We've seen good pace from him. Josh is trying to gain on Daryl. Chinzilla, who we've seen falling back a bit now, falling back into the clutches of PRF1 Viper. Paul Codd really struggling in this race. I believe started on pole position due to the reverse grid. But Devil Diddley, 5 seconds out in front. And Just Dave will look to come at Fake Scouser again as the DRS enables itself now. And he will look towards potentially the inside line. Nothing doing for him though. He's not close enough. Sab Gaming and Dinosaur are really battling away. And to the outside goes Sab. He's a little bit forced onto the gravel, but that's good defense from Dinosaur holding his line. And he keeps 4th position for now. But Just Dave will have a great opportunity in the Rodin Motorsport car to try and get through into 2nd here. Fake Scouser got him on this very straight a lap ago, while the Rodin moves back into 2nd place. And looking further behind, we see Dinosaur getting overtaken by Sab Gaming. That's for 4th position. Daryl is gaining on this battle at a rate of knots, about a second a lap. I believe the AIX driver is gaining. Meldrum comes into the pits to retire from the session, so a bad sprint gone worse for the high-tech man, and he is out of the sprint. Lap 7 of 15. We're almost at half race distance, or about at half race distance now, and this sprint, flares are starting to fire, tensions are starting to heat up as Fake Scouser right on the back now of Just Dave. Dinosaur is actually falling off of the back of Sab Gaming, and that will invite Daryl to try and attack, and that is our closest battle between 2nd and 3rd. Fake Scouser with the DRS, and he is going to look to come at Just Dave into the chicane. Nothing doing on this lap, but he will have a great opportunity down the main straight as we can see him just getting in the slipstream now. A little bit of a wiggle there for Dave, and that should gain Scouser some time. It's about an 8/10 gap. Is that going to be close enough for Fake Scouser to try and take the position away? He is gaining, is the MP Motorsport man. Just Dave, though, sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, and that helps him stay ahead on this lap. And the Rodin driver doing everything he needs to do. And that gap is tumbling a little bit to Devil Diddley. So Devil, who has been leading since lap 2 and has comfortably been eking out that margin out in front, is now maybe going to come under a little bit of pressure as he sees that gap fall. It was almost at about 5 seconds. Now 3.6 seconds. And it is changing ever more as every corner goes on. But it looks to me that it is beginning to come down. We've got a battle for 6th place. That's between Daryl and Josh. And Daryl is so close to the back of the DRS duct of Dinosaur, and he will be praying he can get that just to help him defend from Josh, who is on a bit of a comeback race after being round, I believe, at the banked hairpin on lap 1. And there, going very wide, is Daryl, and he goes straight through and into 5th place. And Josh is going to have a great run at the VAR driver, looks to get his way through, and again Dinosaur goes off and onto the gravel, and Josh makes his way through into 6th place. Daryl up into 5th now, has a 3-second gap, and look at the gap between the leaders. Just Dave is really pulling in Devil. Lap 9 of 15. There's still plenty of racing laps to go in this sprint race, and Dave is putting an impression on the leader. Devil, like I mentioned, has led since lap 2 and always looked like the favourite to win this race, especially coming from the back of the grid to the lead. Well, Devil is going to be put under some pressure, and it is going to feel like hell for the man from hell. Devil will be heating up in that cockpit as he realises there are 2 incredibly talented and experienced drivers making their way towards him at a rate of knots, and there is nothing he can do about it. Josh is right on the back of Daryl. Dinosaur's in this battle. Viper is also beginning to gain, so we could have a 4-car battle for 5th place here. Paul Codd was, I believe, overtaken by Chinzilla. Those two have been battling nearly all race long. And I believe Daryl might actually have some damage. If we could get a better camera angle of the front of that AIX car, we'd be able to see. And yes, he does have damage. So Josh will be gaining very, very quickly, especially through the slower corners, as Fake Scouser will have a brilliant opportunity to try and get past Just Dave here. He is gaining on the Rodin car. The Rodin car goes defensive towards the inside. To the outside goes Fake Scouser. The outside line is the favoured route around a banked corner. That's the way he's trying to go. The Rodin car, with perfect defence, holds on to 2nd. Josh manages to get past Dinosaur. Daryl and Dinosaur making big contact and into the wall on the exit of turn 1. They were wheel to wheel and the wheels just locked together, and there was absolutely nothing that neither of them could do about it. Daryl with massive damage. Dinosaur has also got damage. That promotes Josh up to 5th and Viper up to 6th. Sab Gaming is currently in 4th, but does have a penalty. And Just Dave, it's lap 10 of lap 15 of this sprint race. He is just outside the DRS duct. Fake Scouser is already in it and has been chasing down the road in man for what feels like forever. But they are now on the back of the leader. So Devil Diddley will have it all to do if he wants to try and still win this sprint race. Because Fake Scouser and Just Dave, they have closed in extremely quickly, and now they have arrived. Zandvoort, what a great circuit it is for racing, and what a sprint race we are having tonight here in NRRL, as Just Dave is gaining on the Prima man. Nothing he can do to try and get past thus far, but that has brought him very, very close to the back of the Prima. The dirty air will harm him, but the DRS will be all the benefit as Dinosaur comes into the pits to change that front wing. You would imagine, yes, Daryl also into the pit lane. And look at the top 3. Look how close they are around such an iconic venue. 3 cars all battling for the lead, and it is so, so close between all 3 of them. This trio giving it absolutely everything. Lap 11 of 15 of this sprint race. The road enforced to go defensive as Fake Scouser looks for a move, and Diddley has gone very wide, and that gives up the lead then. So Just Dave takes the lead. Fake Scouser right on the back of them though. Devil Diddley is still involved in this fight. He is still close enough and will have the DRS, but the first mistake from our leader, and he has dropped down into 3rd. It is now Rodin with Just Dave that leads from the MP Motorsport of Fake Scouser, and then the Prima of Devil Diddley. The top 3 giving it absolutely everything, and Devil Diddley just stepping over that limit as here we go with Fake Scouser. To the inside of turn 1 he goes. Can he make the move before the corner even happens? He makes the move up into the lead, and on the medium compound tyres, his tyres will be feeling much better than those on the softs. And you can see the guys on the mediums are beginning to gain, and there's contact there between the 2 leaders, Fake Scouser and Just Dave. It was Dave that went a little bit brave and deep on the brakes, just went into the back of the MP Motorsport car, manages to live to fight for another day, and Diddley is right on the back of this. But Fake Scouser is beginning to pull away a little bit, and like I mentioned, with the medium compound tyres, they will be feeling much better than the softs. And Fake Scouser will be looking to try and run away with this now. He's been putting Dave under pressure for so many laps. And at the first opportunity of asking where he could truly get through, he made it count. Devil Diddley has fallen right off the back of this pack. So, and I believe he's got a puncture. Yes, Devil's got a puncture. And into the chicane, he's gone very deep. And he's had massive contact with the wall and surely damage to the front of that Prima. But a puncture for the man, I was just about to say, he had about a 5-second lead. He went from the back of the grid to the lead in 2 laps. But the leader, or the supposed leader, I guess you could say, with a puncture, and the Prima man, heartbreak for the entire Prima team and for Devil Diddley, who looked so on course for a sprint race victory and now will inevitably dive into the pits with a puncture and massive, massive damage. Fake Scouser continues to lead from Just Dave. It is then Sab Gaming in third. We will look quickly at the penalties and you can see Kevin Baker, Span Muscle and Chinzilla. Massive, massive penalties to their names. It is then Paul Codd with 6 seconds and the 2 Invicta cars of Sab and Viper with 3-second penalties. And Josh right on the back of Viper as he tries to propel himself towards a podium position. And between the 2 leaders, Dave and Scouser, still battling away are these 2. And it looks like Scouser has got the Rodin man's number as we head towards the penultimate lap of this Grand Prix. And Just Dave, he will give it absolutely everything. A little bit of understeer there through the penultimate corner as we now move on to lap 14 of 15 of this sprint race. And Just Dave is gaining on Fake Scouser. He is going to look to the inside. It's very, very close between the 2 of them. Fake Scouser manages to just keep it late enough on the brakes and force his way to stay ahead. And Fake Scouser, stark defence of his lead. Incredibly brave on the brakes. And he manages to stay in the lead for the time being. Josh is really beginning to reel in Viper. It won't matter due to the penalties, but he will want to try and gain as much as he can. It's then a 30-second gap back to Paul Codd, who is only just starting the 14th lap out of 15. He's then got Kevin Baker about 3.5 seconds behind him. But the 2 battles on track are Dave versus Scouser and Josh versus Viper. First battle to watch will be between the 2 leaders, Rodin versus MP, Scouser versus Dave. Who will come out on top into the chicane? Nothing doing for Dave. Now let's take a look at Josh, who has fallen a bit off of the back of Viper and is beginning to struggle a tad and is nowhere near close enough. So as we now go to the final main DRS straight on the final lap of this incredible sprint race, can Dave try and put Scouser under any pressure? He is gaining on the MP Motorsports car to the outside. He is forced. The Rodin Motorsport car propels through into the lead of the Zandvoort sprint race, and the Dutch crowd will be roaring them on. They will be loving this action as all the way to the final lap, these 2 giving it absolutely everything, and Just Dave for Rodin Motorsport takes the lead. It is then Scouser in second, who will settle behind the Rodin and look to counter on any sort of mistake that is made, and he will still have sort of 1.5 DRS zones to go. It's a very short run to the line though once you get the DRS down the main straight, so his best opportunity is to try and get through on the next straight. When you have the DRS, he's about 3/10 behind. Little bit of a different line for the MP Motorsports car. We're on board with him as he now comes towards the chicane. Is he going to be close enough to look for a move? He's not. And surely that seals Dave's fate as yes, Scouser picks up a 3-second time penalty and that seals Dave's fate. It has been a cool, calm and collected drive from Dave. He made the moves when he needed to and he showed what he is made of, and under the pressure a diamond has been formed. Just Dave wins the Dutch sprint with an incredible drive. It is Fake Scouser who battled him all the way, who takes second place. Sab Gaming comes home after a very cool drive to take third place. Josh with a brilliant comeback to fourth. It is then Viper who will take fifth place. Dinosaur, after being at the sharp end for so long, will come home in sixth. It will then be Paul Codd in seventh, with Kevin Baker who will provisionally finish eighth. But you would imagine the likes of Devil Diddley and Daryl will take those positions away from him. Heartbreak for Devil. He led by 5 seconds at one point. Came from the back of the grid to lead. But unfortunately for him, it was not to be his day. And he will come across the line now to take P7 after the penalties. Daryl, who was also up there at the sharp end after contact, he finishes in 9th. It's Kevin Baker who will finish in 10th. It will then be Span Muscle who finishes 11th on track. But you would assume that Hash will take that away from him. And then Chinzilla in 13th, with Meldrum being the only DNF of the sprint. But if that is a precursor for the Grand Prix, bring it on. What a sprint that was. Incredible action all throughout. And Dave rises to the top. Incredible stuff. And what a sprint race here in Zandvoort. And there is your confirmation then. Dave wins the Dutch sprint. It is then Fake Scouser in second. Sab Gaming third, with Josh in fourth. Viper in fifth. Dinosaur sixth. Diddley in seventh. Paul Codd in eighth. Daryl in ninth. Kevin Baker 10th. Hash in 11th. Span Muscle 12th. Chinzilla 13th, with Meldrum the only retiree. We will now move back to a one-shot qualifying, which will determine the grid for the Grand Prix, or the feature race, as it's known in Formula 2. And we will just await the drivers on the grid, or I believe, are we running a one-shot qualifying, or are we running the usual sprint format? In recent weeks, we have done another one-shot qualifying afterwards. Although it looks like the cars are lining up on the grid. Normally you see a bit of action in the garages before a one-shot qualifying, but it looks like the cars are on the grid. So I would have to assume that we are just going straight into the feature race. Yes, we are going straight into the feature race then, as there are 5 red lights ahead of the drivers for the Zandvoort feature race. It is lights out and away we go, and it seems like Span Muscle has stalled on the grid, but into turn 1, Just Dave is clear, goes very deep on the brakes, does the Rodin driver. Josh and Viper battling away in the opening corners. And it looks like Viper has won out that fight, and he has. And the Invicta Motors driver makes it through into second. It's then Josh in third with Fake Scouser in fourth, Sab Gaming in fifth. And it looks like everyone is through cleanly besides Span Muscle, who stalled on the grid. Devil Diddley getting very close to the action there. And he's going to look to go now down the inside of Meldrum. Is he into the next corner? It's close and there is contact. They manage to keep racing in a straight line though. And Devil does eventually manage to go down the inside and promote himself up into 8th position. But unlike the sprint race, they all seem to be through cleanly. And we will see now the tyre allocation. Most drivers on the mediums will have to watch out for Viper, who's on the soft compound tyres, who should be gaining towards the front. There's a car going slowly there. That's Paul Codd, I believe, who is falling back down the pack, and it is Paul Codd, who is now down into 9th, who is looking to pull out the slipstream of Meldrum, and on the inside, on the grass, through the banking, and there's a car on his outside there, and this is going to get very close as we go down the main straight to begin lap 2. We're almost 4 abreast here as we go into turn 1. Very close between all of them, and Paul Codd very, very deep into turn 1. That's going to invite Kevin Baker up the inside, and Kevin does manage to make the move up into 10th position. Paul Codd now looking to go down the inside, and that's even closer to contact. But Kevin manages to maintain the position and actually gets up to 9th as Meldrum makes a bit of a mistake and falls down to 11th. But out in front, Just Dave leads. Viper is hounding on the pressure though. As Fake Scouser, it looks like Josh. Yes, Josh! Josh is off of the circuit. He went through the gravel, and you would assume that was just understeer. Just plain understeer in the ART car, and he's gone off. And that's going to promote Fake Scouser to 3rd, Sab Gaming to 4th, Dinosaur to 5th, and Devil Diddley up into 6th. And Josh, who had a torrid time in the sprint race, he was round on the opening lap. Well, on the second lap today, he has made yet another mistake and is into the gravel, now down in 7th position, and for a man that had to execute a comeback in the sprint race, will have to do the same again in the feature as Viper manages to get through on Dave for the lead of the race. Dave though managing the switchback and retakes the position, but this battle is going to be one to watch between the two leaders. They've pulled away from Fake Scouser. You've got to remember that Josh was the one behind these guys, but with that mistake, it has given them quite a bit of a gap. So these two are free to fight. And you would imagine Viper on the soft tyres will want to try and get through as quickly as possible. His Invicta teammate Sab Gaming is trying to put some pressure on Fake Scouser for 3rd position, and Invicta having a great day so far, running 2nd and 4th. We've then got the VAR car of Dinosaur, who is in 5th place, the Prima of Devil in 6th, and Josh is actually under a bit of pressure here from Daryl. But lap 3 of lap 20, Hash is just coming out of the pit lane now in the McLaren backed road in. And through the final corner, the leaders come then. And everyone through relatively cleanly so far. We saw Span Muscle get disqualified on the grid. He stalled. We then saw Hash come into the pit lane. But besides that, it seems everyone is doing okay. Josh manages to get his way through on Devil Diddley and up into 6th position. Dinosaur is just ahead of that battle, and he's in a bit of no man's land currently. We've then got Viper, who is right on the back of Just Dave. Sab manages to get his way through on Fake Scouser and up into 3rd and improves Invicta's day absolutely massively. Dinosaur has disconnected from the session, and Josh immediately gets through, as does Devil Diddley, and Daryl manages to make his way through as well. That is about a 3-car battle for 6th position, or 5th position, should I say, Josh, Devil and Daryl. Kevin Baker is also trying to insert himself in that fight. But between the leaders, all clean so far. Viper's had one look at him and Dave's had the answer. But Viper does look very close on this lap and looks very well placed to try and make a move. As now, towards the banking we go to begin lap 5 of 20 here in Zandvoort. And Viper is very, very close. And it's going to be very hard for Dave to try and defend that. As Viper cuts across to defend his position and does take the lead of the Dutch sprint race. Fake Scouser manages to get his way back through on Sab and up into third. So where one Invicta gains, the other one loses. But still a brilliant day for Invicta. Josh manages to hold on to his position in the fight with Devil and Daryl. And they are the main fights that we've got so far. First and second, third and fourth, and then between 5th, 6th and 7th. Incredible little three-way battle we've got going on there as these three try and gain on the top 4. And Sab very, very close to the back of Fake Scouser, looking to improve his position. Currently in 4th. They've got about a 2-second gap to the two leaders. And that will only compound itself, you would imagine. Just Dave right on the back of Viper. But Viper in the clean air on the softer tyres is looking to try and push his way through. And it is about a 4/10 gap. And that should be close enough to try and make a move. As we now go to the main straight, it is more than enough to try and make the move. And Just Dave, after a lap of being behind his rival, manages to get back through. And where one Invicta loses this lap, the other one gains. And Sab manages to make his way through as we've got a battle here between Josh and Devil. It seems that Josh has managed to defend that position well, and he will remain in 5th. Daryl is just lingering on the back of this fight, waiting for any mishaps. Devil taking a very tight line there through the banking. The two Invictas, 2 and 3. And Sab looking to try and gain on his teammate. But Dave and Viper look to be in a league of their own tonight. As we come through to the next DRS zone, and Viper is gaining on Dave, but we know the real overtaking zone is not into this chicane. It is definitely doable, as Charles Leclerc showed us on George Russell in Zandvoort this year, but it is not the ideal place for overtaking. This is, you open the DRS, then you go through the banking, and Viper is beginning to gain on Dave, but Dave with a good exit is going to make it hard for him. Viper is gaining though, and to the inside goes the Invicta Motors car, and it is just lap after lap. These two trade position. Viper retakes the lead, and it is the exact same between 3rd and 4th. Scouser makes the move once more on Sab Gaming, and these four are just trading positions. Viper and Dave, Scouser and Sab just trading with each other every single lap and just pulling further away from the 3-car battle for 5th, 6th and 7th. Behind them, the gaps are beginning to open up. Kevin Baker is in 8th, running quite a quiet race, but a good controlled race from him. Meldrum is then in 9th. 7 laps, no penalties. Good on you, Meldrum. Well done, my friend. Paul Codd in 10th place. He has struggled a bit, but he is doing well now. He's getting into a bit of a rhythm. Same with Chinzilla. Has had his struggles, but is doing well. And there's a yellow flag, and I can't see what that's for. It is for Devil Diddley, who is round and nearly completely stopped. And there is damage to the front wing of that Prima vehicle. He was in the fight with Josh and Daryl, and I saw Daryl get past him. That is obviously why, because Devil has been into the walls. Judging by the gap, I wouldn't have said there was contact. So whether Devil just went round or not, I'm not 100% sure. As always, Dave manages to get back past Viper. Sab not close enough to challenge Fake Scouser on this lap, but I'm sure that battle is far from over yet. Josh is currently in 5th. Devil does come into the pit lane, you would assume, to change that front wing and to get on a set of the medium tyres to go to the end of this race. They are changing the nose of that Prima vehicle, changing the tyres as well, and that is going to be a lengthy pit stop for the Prima crew. He is going to fall very far back down, you would imagine, to where he is now in 11th. As the two leaders continue duking it out Sab right on the back of Scouser. Daryl and Josh still giving it everything against each other in their own little battle. And everyone else just running quiet, cool races. But this is good driving from absolutely everyone to just keep it calm, keep it cool, keep it out of the walls, and continue on to live for another day. And I must say, very surprisingly, in the sprint race and 8 laps into the feature race, no sign of a safety car. So these drivers, it is testament to how much these drivers are growing with every race that is put on here in NRRL. And if you are new, you can follow us on Twitch and on TikTok. It is the only 2 places that you can watch NRRL live 7 days a week of racing action. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. We are bringing you racing action. My name is JP. I commentate pretty much every day in this absolutely incredible league, and it is always a pleasure to be in the commentary booth watching these drivers give it absolutely everything, whether that be Formula 1 action, Formula 2 action, 100% races, 50% races, sprint races, feature races, whatever you can imagine. It is always such a pleasure to be in the commentary booth and to watch these drivers do what they do best, and that is fight and win. As Viper is on the back of Dave, the gap is starting to gain a little bit, about 0.6 of a second now, and Dave might actually get some DRS. He will get some DRS help from the 2 lapped cars ahead of him. I believe those were Dinosaur and Hash. So Dave really being done a solid, and Viper is going to dive into the pits. Now we know that Viper was on the soft compound tyres, and we would expect him to pit earlier, as we see Fake Scouser and Sab Gaming really battling now, as this battle for third now turns into the battle for second. Fake Scouser defending that position hard and manages to stay in second place. Viper is just making his way out the pit lane now and will emerge in 7th place, as the blue flags are waving for Dinosaur to politely get out of the way. And just Dave, when will we see the medium runners pit? 10 laps the tyres went for Viper. And will there be a little bit more of an overcut attempt from the likes of Dave? Will he just come in and react to that pit stop? It is very interesting to see how all the strategies vary, especially in a Formula 2 race, and I'm sure this race will be anything but not surprising. It is always a surprise to see what every driver does in any tier of racing, and the Formula 2 action is not different, as we are on board with Just Dave. Will he be diving into the pits at the end of this lap? He will not. So Dave confident he can stay out on those tyres and live with it for now. Sab very close to the back of Fake Scouser. To the inside he goes, and before the corner even appears in front of them, the Invicta Motors car moves up into second place. Scouser will try and fight it around the outside and is very, very close to the outside of him. And there is contact between the two of them. That's Sab Gaming with a great save to try and keep it out the wall. But if I'm Fake Scouser, I am going to give that position back. That was very, very aggressive, shall we say, and he muscled his way through back up into second. I just think that was a little bit over the limit. Daryl, you would imagine, will be in at the end of this lap on those soft compound tyres. We've seen nearly all of the soft runners, apart from Daryl, on the softs, who have made their way into the pit lane. And we now see Sab Gaming with the DRS once more on Fake Scouser, and I do wonder if Sab will feel a little bit hard done by that move and will want to get some of his own back, as we now go through the chicane. And it looks like Sab has had a bit of an issue there, as he's really losing a lot of time. I can't see... Is that a puncture? Is that a rear left puncture? I can't really tell, to be completely honest. The car almost looks a little bit lower down on the left, but I can't see anything. Although he did lose a lot of time very, very quickly there, so I do wonder if there was some sort of issue with Sab's car. He gets going once more. Daryl inherits second place as he's still out on the soft tyres. Kevin Baker moves up to third, and Viper has actually undercut Dave and Scouser. So Viper moves into the net lead, although Dave, on the softer compound of tyres, will look to try and get through. Fake Scouser is about 5 seconds behind Dave. It's then Meldrum and Sab Gaming as Paul Codd comes into the pit lane. And you can just hear how high the revs get. We've got a yellow flag at turn 1, and that is for Chinzilla, who is round at turn 1. He's in the gravel. He manages to keep the car going and stays in the race. It looks like there might be a little bit of damage. No, there's no damage to that Prima car, but the Prima's really struggling, and you can see him just wrestling the car there. I can't see any tyre damage to that vehicle either, so everything should be okay. Josh and Daryl both come into the pit lane then. Kevin Baker also into the pit, so that will promote Viper into the lead. Dave will be following close behind him in second place, and these two hopefully will be battling for the next 7 laps. Fake Scouser manages to get out in third, and Josh falls back again behind Sab Gaming. Josh will come out, you would imagine, in 5th place, and he does. Sab Gaming in 4th, and he has lost a lot of ground to Fake Scouser, who pitted, I believe, no, they pitted the same lap. So I would have to assume there is some sort of issue with Sab Gaming to be losing that amount of time. Dave right on the back of Viper, and that is the closest battle we have, and that is what we want to see. The two leaders closest to each other on track, giving it everything. In behind, we've got Hash and Paul Codd, who are battling away. The McLaren-backed Rodin fighting and scrapping away with Paul Codd, who has been struggling in this entire sort of event, really. And Hash is beginning to gain on Paul Codd. Is he going to look to the inside? He's not. Thinks better of it. But Paul Codd, very, very deep he goes. And the dummy that Hash threw him completely worked. Paul Codd incredibly late on the brakes and rolls into the gravel. Manages to keep it out the barriers. And Just Dave sets the fastest lap. Manages to get through back into the lead. And the question is now, will he be able to try and gain away on the softer compound tyres? Lap 14 of 20 of this Formula 2 feature race, and what a feature race it has been. The gaps now do just start to open themselves up, as it does in any sort of Formula event, Formula 1 or Formula 2 be that. And Viper is still glued to the back of Dave, and you would have imagined that Dave on the softer compound tyres would have tried to run away with this, but not able to. Viper is sticking right to the back of him. Lap 15 then, Viper just not able to make his way through on Dave. And Dave, through the banking they go then, very, very close. The dirty air will be harming the Invictors. Speaking of Invictors, I'm very questionable about Sab Gaming. Because it is not like him to fall back. You know, he is the only championship winner in NRRL to date. He is the Sunday Season 1 World Champion. And if that tells you anything, it's that he knows how to drive a car. So to be stupidly close to the back of your rival for, what was it, 10, 11 laps, and then fall back 4 seconds within a lap tells me something is either wrong with the car or with his setup, because that just doesn't seem right to me. 3.7 or 3.6 seconds now, the gap between them, as Viper manages to get his way back through on Dave. Now the interesting thing will be, Viper pitted 2 laps before Dave. Dave on the softs, Viper on the mediums. What tyres will be best as we approach the final lap? Because you have to imagine this battle is going to the end of the race. These two have been glued to each other from the very first lap, and I am sure it's going to last till the very last lap. So it just depends on who's got the better tyres, who's in second, who's in first. Is it better to be in second and have the DRS? Is it better to be in first and have the track position and be able to defend? It's an interesting paradox that it creates, but we've still got 4 laps to go until we're on the final lap, and Just Dave is gaining on Viper once more. Very, very close as they go through the chicane, about a 4/10 gap between the pair of them, and that is ever coming down between the two of them as we go through the banking now and towards lap 17, and Dave is easily more than close enough to the back of that Invicta car to get through. He wouldn't even need a braking zone right now if there was one, and Just Dave moves through back into the lead. And this is the closest battle that we have got on track currently, and that is always how you want it to be. The two leaders giving it absolutely everything, only a few tenths between them, a few car lengths between the two leaders, and that is exactly the way you would always want it to be. As we come through the middle sector now, then we'll ride on board with Viper and we'll just try and get a sense of the dirty air, because as much as it's not as bad in a Formula 2 car as it is in a Formula 1 car, you're always going to have dirty air following a vehicle, and you can just see there a little bit of oversteer for the Invicta car, having to get on a bit of opposite lock and straighten the car out, and that will inevitably lose you time and cost you tyre efficiency. And Just Dave might get a little bit of a helping hand, as he did a few laps ago, from the lapped cars, and he does. So I believe that's Paul Codd's disconnected lapped car, who is giving Dave a real benefit as we roll on to lap 18 of 20, and that is really giving Dave a benefit, as it basically negates any sort of accident or attack that Viper could try and throw at him, and it just keeps him in the lead for another lap, because we've seen the real overtaking place is, and that's very close, and that is into the wall for Viper. I had to interrupt myself there as I saw the car get very squirrely, and he managed to save it. Fair play to Viper, but a big mistake there on the exit of the banking, and you saw him wrestling the car, trying to get it back in. I do apologise, ladies and gentlemen, my headset disconnected, not ideal, but as I was saying, you saw him wrestling the car, trying to get any grip out of it he could, and even still going into the gravel is the Invicta Motors driver as we head on to lap 18, and Just Dave has been given an absolute blessing. He won the sprint. Viper will get DRS off of the lapped car, which will help him in his pursuit of the leader. But on the better tyres, you would have to say, Dave, surely, without any mistake, is easily now the favourite to win this one. But crazier things have happened in Formula 2. I mean, we saw it in the sprint with Diddley, who was leading for so long, and that gap just vanished almost immediately. But Dave is on his way to back-to-back wins and the perfect Formula 2 weekend, which I don't believe we have ever seen before in NRRL. So Just Dave could be the first man to execute the perfect weekend. It is Viper in second. Fake Scouser, who we covered a lot in his battle with Sab, but a very good drive from Scouser and great strategy to get himself ahead of Sab and clear of the Invicta Motors driver. And he has just been cool, calm and collected and has risen his way into third. A good drive from the MP Motorsport man and a very deserved podium if he is to hold on. Sab Gaming in fourth with that weird almost phantom error, but fourth place, a good deal of points for Invicta and a great weekend for Invicta, who will be taking second and fourth. Josh in fifth with Daryl in sixth. Devil, after his spin quite early on, now in eighth place and really in no man's land, and that's where a lot of these drivers are, just struggling, no one really around them. But for Dave, that is exactly what he will want. He will want a nice open road, a nice empty track for him to just get on with what he does best, leading a Formula 2 race. And like I say, he is on for the perfect weekend here today. And it is just a privilege to watch a drive like this. In qualifying, in the sprint race, in the feature race, he has been nothing shy of perfect. There's been little moments of contact. He's dealt with it very well. We saw him, you know, have a little bit of argy-bargy action with Viper, although there seems to be an issue as he ran out of fuel. I believe Dave might have... He has! Dave has ran out of fuel! And that's going to promote Viper to the win. I don't believe it. So after a perfect weekend for Dave, his car runs out of fuel. Is he even going to make it to second? Well, for Viper, it is an absolute miracle and a gift from the gods as he rounds the final corner to take the Dutch feature race. Viper wins the Dutch feature. It is then going to be Fake Scouser who steals second place away. Dave just about drags his car home for third. It is then Sab Gaming in fourth place. Josh comes home for fifth. It will be Daryl in sixth position. Kevin Baker will finish in seventh, but due to penalties, that is all subject to change. And we will look now. It will be Kevin who will finish seventh on track. It will be Devil Diddley who takes that position away. And then we've got about 50 seconds to wait for Meldrum to cross the line in ninth. It is Paul Codd in 10th, Hash in 11th, Chinzilla in 12th, Dinosaur in 13th, and Span Muscle disqualified after stalling on the starting grid. But the story of the day today, Just Dave, was probably meters from executing the perfect Formula 2 weekend and ran out of fuel with 2 corners to go, gifting Viper the victory. And Dave, commiserations to you, mate. Incredible drive from you and so difficult. But for Viper, congratulations, a beautiful drive and a deserved winner. Stimulation Gaming, thank you very much, my friend. It was a very difficult race and I did see a lot of drivers with a damaged front wing. It was hard to stay out of the chaos. But for Viper out in front, that is exactly what he did. And that is your classification for the feature race. It is Viper who wins from Fake Scouser and Just Dave in third. Sab Gaming in fourth. Josh fifth with Daryl in sixth. Devil Diddley in seventh. It is then Kevin Baker in 8th for Trident, Meldrum in 9th, with Paul Codd in 10th for Dams, Hash in 11th, Chinzilla 12th, Dinosaur 13th, with Span Muscle stalling on the grid and failing to start. And there are your results for the weekend then. Viper takes the lion's share of points from Dave and Fake Scouser, Sab Gaming, Josh, Diddley, Daryl, Kevin Baker, Dinosaur, Paul Codd, Meldrum, Hash, Chinzilla, and Span Muscle. Sprint race, some guy stopped on racing line and caused carnage. I do believe I caught that, but unfortunately that is the thing in these league races. There tends to always be a bit of carnage, doesn't there? Well, thank you to everyone for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow night with the Sunday Super League 100% tier. My name has been JP. I have been your commentator. A pleasure as always. Thank you very much for watching and we will see you tomorrow. Take care.